Yeah, I'm sure this won't go wrong. So far, we've covered a few haunted houses, and it seems we have another stop before even seeing the words survival horror. However, after running away from everything, I figured we'd slow it down and take a more leisure pace. This brings us to a haunted house tale called Uninvited, developed by ICOM Simulations and published by Mindscape, or at least sort of. See, the original version was released to Macintosh systems back in 1986. However, by mostly accident, I ended up playing the NES version. This one was developed and published by Kemco in 1991, with another port being to Windows in 1993. Though the Steam ports from 2015 say it was developed by Zojo and published by Reverb XXXP, isn't corporate copyright fun? There's multiple differences, and I'll be sure to cover them best I can later on in this review. However, for right now, a pinch of history. This is actually a third attempt in the point-and-click series for the original developer, with them making the Deja Vu games and following up afterwards in 1987 with Shadowgate. So the devs behind this title, or I suppose the original version of the title, are no strangers to point-and-click. I am no expert by any means. The largest extent of my experience is I Spy books, a few Telltale games, and one very frustrating Scooby-Doo title on the Game Boy Color. Well, I'm sure this and a bottle of jam will lead to unlocking a door, so let's get started on our journey. It begins as all great horror tales do. We awake with no clue how we got here, or where our sister has run off to. Honestly, this is pretty nice as it allows those unfamiliar with the genre to learn the ropes of this particular title, such as the oh-so-endearing quirk of open and use being two different actions. Well, I'm sure being pedantic won't lead to any unforeseen consequences. Besides, we haven't even entered the manor. First, we need to do something real scary. Read this dude's mail, thus committing a federal crime. All you get of note is just that, and a pendant, something about a master, his servant, and trying to stop a person named Draken. After all of that, the manor opens up and we step inside to a pretty normal-looking foyer. Well, I'll bring up some details later. I saw the Lone Star and legit thought this took place in Texas or something. Taking a right shows we aren't in Kansas anymore, as a spell book has been left out. Don't get too excited, as this game isn't about combat. Everything is more puzzle-based, and these spells won't be banishing much. Take for example, our first enemy of the game, the Bell. Pull any action on her, and you're soon ripped to shreds. What you have to do is explore upstairs first, find some Ghost Be Gone, that's what it's actually called, and splash it on her. Oh, you think you're fucking funny. Yes, two things you will learn very fast with this game. It's playing by the old laws of point and click, in that if you think it has an available action, you should try that action. Also, the game fancies itself a bit of a comedy. For the most part, the jokes land, and I had more than a few chuckles at the various comedy moments. Now to get her wet. Before we move on, I do have a minor criticism. The door at the far right is the one we entered the hallway through. Now every other entrance we take will be behind us for the movements. Just an odd decision to take this angle, as it kind of screws with the player a bit. Exploring the manor more, you will eventually make your way upstairs, where a slow death awaits you. The game does send a ghost to warn you of this though, so you have no one to blame but yourself. Also, this ghost brings about some of the changes the NES version has. Nintendo has always been awkward with mature games, sometimes having excellent horror titles and other times being too scared of a military shooter. This title was hit with many censored scenes. This ghost originally carried his head, for example. It is weird as there is still horror going on. The title is also in color, but the uncensored version is available in color on the Steam port, far as I can tell. That all said, there's also some more questionable changes. When I stepped into the foyer, I presumed this manor was in Texas or something, due to the massive star. Well, that is actually a cover-up of what was originally a pentagram. In fact, we aren't even in America. We're in Scotland.
Red is the perfect one. Black is the brooding bad boy. Green is the clown, and yellow, well, she's the girl. So what are you supposed to be?
I'm Scottish!
I'm mixed on the changes, as I rather like the manor seeming so innocent and normal, but with oddities like the book on magic, and how it contrasts with the various creatures. The original, however, does make the manor more imposing, and throws away any notion of normal help inside. Speaking of help, we can find a few lore bits on how the owner of the manor was training students. It seems one of them, by the name of Draken, went power hungry, and the help had to try stop him. We can find said help if we dig around his room. Well, if the last spirit took Ghost Be Gone, we must need more of it. No, you simply need a spider. And despite having a spell that can freeze anything with 6 or more legs, you sadly cannot do this. The game may allow you to pick up basically everything, but the solutions are very narrow. In this case, you need a sticky spray from the same cabinet as the Ghost Be Gone. Well, with everything done, you can make your way out of the house. If you watch this enough times, the game will mention him looking hungry. Despite this, none of the food in the house serves as the correct answer to the puzzle. In fact, it will be some time before you even have to contend with him. Going outside into the backyard, you have 3 new destinations, though they aren't as large as the manor. In fact, you're about halfway through the game. In total, it took me about 3 hours to beat this game, so it isn't particularly long. Also, while there are some idiotic puzzles, I'm happy to say that some are simple brain teasers, such as watering plants and needing to refill the bucket. That's just find the source. A real brain teaser comes in the form of your spells. Each has a riddle, and with just a bit of thought, you can largely place together where to use them. The one that stops something with 6 legs works on a spider, spell mentions more than one, well you have 2 dogs, so off they scoot. No way out of this dead end? You have a spell for that. I also appreciate the game dropping not so subtle hints in the dialogue to save you from future threats. The game isn't immune to the typical trappings of how solutions in this genre work, but I'll touch on that later. Also, it should be noted that the first area in the backyard serves as a drop-off point for items, though I'm not sure why, as it's just an empty field. If you pick everything up, you can end up with a large and junk-filled inventory. However, I must note that when I did leave an item, I didn't see any way to pick it back up. Also, I never got my inventory too large, so I'm not sure why I'd bother unless I really did go full kleptomaniac in the manor. The next challenge comes in the form of a maze. Now, I will be honest and say that I really don't understand how I'm supposed to know what the pattern is. I largely just ran around randomly before looking it up. I'm happy to say I managed to get a fair bit accurate by complete accident, but I simply did not see anything on the scrolls or diaries that answered what the pattern needed to be. I suppose I could have missed something, but oh well. Also, if you run into any undead roaming the holes, you can use the pendant to blast them, or simply teleport out. Also, your pendant isn't so useful if you find a group. 1-on-1, you're Goku, but gather up a few and you're getting the Captain Rhodes treatment. I think the most entertaining part of this is that if you ignore the gravestone requiring interaction, you end up at a coffin. This can lead to one of the few suicide options in the title. Someone was having fun working out all the deaths because there are plenty. The best part is that in a few cases, the game will make it blatantly clear that death is around the corner. So with the maze conquered and puzzles solved, the player can now enter the Magisterium. I think I said that right. In a cool little combination puzzle, you'll cross-reference a few pickups that list elements and their values. This results in you retrieving a cookie, which can now halt the ghost and get you key 2. Now, before I move on here to the endgame, I do want to address that this title isn't without the genre's flaws. So upstairs you can grab an axe. Now in the first room you may click on the couch and discover something inside it. You actually can't cut it open with the axe. The game outright warns you not to do it and restricts any further action. Instead, a knife is needed, while the axe is used to cut open the cookie jar. It's stuff like this I find annoying on 2 fronts. One is the limitedness of cutting open the couch, and the other is the randomness of needing an axe to open a cookie jar. But anyways, moving up to where we are, you should have by now discovered the star emblem, along with a scroll talking of how it burns when touching cold, and freezes when touching hot. Using the fireplace you can get it out of its box, and now, with the key in hand, you can access that locked floor door. Also, I haven't really talked about the music or sound much. While the actual sounds are pretty much normal, I did rather enjoy the music. Nothing I'll go out of my way to listen to, but it fits the game. though this cave OST is seeming rather Final Fantasy-like. Also, you may see random events like this bird that's flying in a cave. He played in the backyard for me once too. That made a bit more sense. Anyways, it's time to meet the master of the manor, or at least his astral projection. As well, he did fight his student Draken, and did beat him. He only managed to seal him in ice. So you must do the impossible. Melt the ice and throw Draken down a hole. You know, with all the spells, I kind of figured there'd be more to his defeat than just Leonidas kicking him down a well. Also, yes, you can die from waking him up. Turns out the evil wizard is rather cranky. But that isn't all. The screams of your sister fill the house, and working your way there, you find her knocked out.
Not the worst thing to slap a woman now and then. As I remember, you said you don't do it with a clenched fist. It's better to do it with an open hand.
I haven't changed my opinion.
Turns out she had a demon in her, and it's looking to upgrade with you being the newest model. She then fucks off, leaving you to contend with the demon. Something the character is rather confident in doing. Well, if you manage to get a goblet and fill it with water in the church, you can take it out exactly like you did the ghost woman. Just no cork this time. Also, if you need more water, just hop into the hole. Nothing bad will happen there. Going outside with your sister, she believes it all to be a bad dream, but you're safe now. Together, you walk off into the sunlight. In the original, it was your little brother, but I guess they figured the gamer might appreciate a wink and a heart from a cute chick instead. Jamie did nothing wrong, chat. So I don't typically play games in this genre, not out of any strong disgust towards the franchise, just that I found the aspects it does more enjoyable in titles like Resident Evil or something like Remothered. The whole puzzle aspect towards everything is really fun, and for the most part I didn't feel like the game jerked me around too much. Sure, the inability to use the axe on the couch and instead a cookie jar was strange, but that's about it. I think the ability of being able to pick up literally everything is more a smokescreen to try and trip the player up instead of finding alternatives. Though I did enjoy the semi-hidden paths one can take, like beating the ghost in his bedroom to gain a scroll, or the multitude of hidden deaths, several of which I neglected to bring up. Again, this isn't really a genre I'm super familiar with, so any of the finer points that are lacking or done better elsewhere are obscured to me. That all said, I did have a fun time playing through this title. Comparing versions, I do think this one ends up a bit confused in the tone department. One minute you have a ghost woman who supposedly ripped through your flesh, and the next you're dealing with a silly Billy running around for a cookie. It's not the worst, and I can look past that. I simply wonder if it would have been worse had I played the original version with the more upfront display of the manor's inhabitants. But besides the tone, the game looks great and holds up well, all things considered. The story is rather light, but works for what it is. This seems like some rental movie you'd find in the back of a Blockbuster. Well, not back with the pornos, I don't think they censored it that much. Honestly, I do have to applaud one decision. In the original, the entire game was timed. You had to save your brother or else he would succumb to the house. Well, it's removed here, there is a ruby you can pick up and it will begin to drain the player, eventually killing them. It takes a decent while for it to fully kill the player, but it's still a short amount, so if you do not know the correct course of action, it will likely kill you. Funny enough, it's obtainable even before confronting the first enemy. While I do intend on really revisiting this title or many like it, I will probably take a look at one other point-and-click game. For when there is no more room in hell, the French will adapt a film into a point-and-click.
It's coming from downstairs.
It comes from everywhere and nowhere.